Hello and welcome to A Celtic World, a YouTube channel and podcast that leans into the fact that our beloved Celtic has fans throughout the planet. Although tonight we're a little understaffed, are we not, Stephen? Just the two of us?
Yes, we are. Back to the OGs, the originals are the best, so looking forward to a very interesting conversation.
And I made a bit of a boo-boo on the setup. I put it down at 6:30 for some reason that we were going to be on. So apologies if you're, only going to make your tea now. And here we are.
Skip your tea and join in.
Some of the usuals are already here, no doubt. The regulars. Hail to Tam Mac, for example. But yeah, we're down to two because lots of people are sick. People are unavailable for all sorts of reasons. So it's just me and you tonight, Stephen. A bit like Celtic, there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes, to bring in some quality. So I don't want just numbers. I want quality in the Celtic world.
A wee bit of quality. That's what we need.
Oh dear. Into the Celtic world pool. They probably won't be in before the transfer window ends. In fact, the people that I'm sort of talking to, I'm saying that we'll do it whenever things are settled down and back to normal. So hello there to Monty. Salut Christophe. Lots of familiar faces. Even Mickey Burns from Bella Italia, who has yet to join us in season 2. Hopefully it won't be too long before Mickey joins us and gives us some crack about who's been in his pub. Do you remember the name of his pub in Rome?
Finnegan Spa.
Very good.
Just I'll tell you how I know that. I'll tell you how I remember that, Gav, is because my daughter was travelling in Europe over the last couple of months. She popped into Finnegan's. I told her to go in and say hello to Mickey, but unfortunately he was away on his holidays at the time. So,
but did you go in and have a nice creamy pint of Guinness for €7?
Well, she had a drink. I don't know if she had. I don't think Guinness is quite a bag, but she had a drink and had a nice time. And they said it was a nice little bar.
While we're talking about Rome, sort of connected. Enjoyable Olympics, says John to Christophe. Have you watched any of the Olympics at all, or have you just picked up on the controversies like me?
Yeah, well, we got down here in Australia, we got bombarded with it because Australia are doing quite well, winning a lot of medals. So, but the sort of highlight of it for me was the Australian breakdancing entry. I don't know if you've seen that.
I did see that.
The funniest thing ever, really. I can't stop laughing at it. And now she's become a bit of a cult hero now in the country, and she's going to come home to a hero's welcome. And yeah, but I'm obviously not the expert on breakdancing, but
I know, but there's someone
worst ever. It looked like the worst ever to me. I think I could have had a good go at doing something better than that, to be honest.
But she's very confident. That wee girl who did it, and she's owning it, isn't she? She's not shying away. She's leaning into it.
She's leaning into it for sure, and I believe she's got a PhD in something or other. She's a very clever person, and she's obviously going to run with this and try and make a bit of cash out of it.
Absolutely, why not? All right, well, let's move it on from the Olympics to the sport that we're here to talk about. Did you see all the results? There was some quite funny results over the weekend. We obviously know Hibernian 0, Celtic 2, Aberdeen 3, St Mirren 1. So Aberdeen scudding the previously very impressive St Mirren. Kilmarnock 0, St Johnstone 3. That's a shocking result, isn't it, for Killie? Yeah. Just St Johnstone to go there and take all 3 points. 3-goal margin.
It's interesting, isn't it? The worst results of the weekend were St Mirren and Kilmarnock. Both of the teams have been representing Scotland in Europe these past few weeks. Kilmarnock already out, and I think St Mirren have got a game on Wednesday night this week, and they've kind of got one foot out the door already. They drew 1-1 at home with a Norwegian team, so they're probably going to go out as well. But it kind of just shows you that these squads in the sort of what you would call the sort of mid-table SPFL teams are really, really stretched, and you can't have they just can't have extra games even at this time of the season.
Here's Mahesh commenting on the Australian breakdancer. She got 0 votes. I've seen epileptic fits more creative than that. Yeah, all I've seen is the controversy, the boxing, the Irish guy who won medals and then was claimed by Northern Irish newspapers, you know. Like the newsletter and the Telegraph and that. Yeah. Oh, he won another medal for Northern Ireland. Excuse me. No, he didn't. And then
the French pole vaulter who lost because he had a large penis.
I had the pleasure of watching my mother-in-law watch that video over the weekend. She was like, oh. I just hope she wasn't ascribing all Europeans with the same talent.
But a real light bulb moment.
Certainly. And the other one was, where they show all the attractive women, and then they showed some American non-binary they person compared to like the gorgeous Germans and Norwegians and what have you.
Yeah.
So I haven't really watched much of the sport, I have to be honest.
Yeah, it's been on. I mean, it's on the TV every night here at sort of prime time. So the sort of times have been good to watch a bit of it. So I watched it whenever there's been Australian interest. I've watched it, and it's certainly been quite fun to watch them winning a lot of medals. There was a little 14-year-old girl won a gold medal in some skateboarding competition. So that was really nice to see because she was so excited to win it, and her dad was even more excited for her. But there's been a few. Obviously, the swimming. Australia is really strong in the swimming, so they always take a load of medals there. So I quite enjoy watching that.
Okay, well, let's get back to the footy. Ross County won, Dundee United won. Rangers eked a 2-1 against Motherwell. And then Dundee thump Hearts 3-1. So they're a difficult set of results to have predicted, aren't they? There's plenty you would have got wrong on your coupon.
Yeah, you'd never have picked any of them. I mean, you'd probably have picked Rangers to scrape by Motherwell. Interesting that with the sort of VAR simplifications this year, it's obviously stretching to the added time thing, because with 6 substitutions in the game, they added on 2 minutes injury time at the end. Now, I don't know about you, Gav, but I've never seen a game since the introduction of VAR where there's been 2 minutes added on in a game. It's always at least 4. And I think the ruling from UEFA is that there's supposed to be 30 seconds added on for each substitution. So that should be 2 minutes on substitutions alone without the ball being out of play for any period of time. So you can take from that what you will.
Well, let's talk about a few other issues around the game before we get into the highlights of it. This is the famous banner that was flown and the flags. You can see them all there. Your thoughts on that, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've seen all those banners before at Celtic Park, so they've just kind of been displayed all together at the one time. But it's absolutely correct for Celtic and their fans to be showing solidarity with the various people who are getting some terrible abuse up and down the length and breadth of not only Great Britain but in Ireland as well. The last few weeks and months, and I think it's right to point out that Celtic were a club or are a club that were formed by immigrants, and arguably, and I've seen this argued various times, that Celtic are probably the biggest success story of the Irish diaspora anywhere in the world, and that's something we should cherish and be very, very proud of. So delighted to see that. delighted to see the solidarity being shown by the Celtic fans, and I hope it continues.
And of course, they're playing against Hibs, who history tells you were the original club founded in Scotland by Irish immigrants, or certainly ahead of Celtic, which they were quite happy to remind us of by creating this. Did you see that? Created by Hibernian. Of course, Celtic were almost named Glasgow Hibernian, weren't they?
Yeah, they were, and they were specifically not named that so as to not draw any sort of comparison with their Edinburgh counterparts. Hibs at the time were a club who only signed Catholic players, and Celtic wanted to distance themselves from that. They wanted to be a truly ecumenical club and sign players of all religions or none. And that's, again, something the club should be very, very proud of. But there was also a number of other suggestions like Glasgow Harp and some other stuff like that. So I think we landed on the correct answer ultimately.
It's funny, I was thinking, when I was talking to the Americans the other day about during the US tour where the club was mispronounced Celtic, you would think they would, with the Boston Celtics, they would be at least asked the question in their minds, is this pronounced the same as the Boston Celtics? But never mind. Okay. What else do we have? Oh, I was going to ask you about your memories of Easter Road. I saw this picture here from 1988. That was your era. Look at the stadium there, how different it is. And as this Just an Ordinary Boy points out, a massive difference on today's allocation.
Yeah, I mean, I've got so many memories of Easter Road in that, arrangement it is there in the picture. It was really, it was a terrible ground, for any sort of comfort in watching the game. I remember you walked in the turnstiles at the back of that end and you had to walk up a hill that was basically just made of mud. And just at the top of the hill, there was what was, euphemistically known as a toilet, but it was basically just some sort of, structure where men went in to take a piss. And outside, and it was right at the top of the hill, and outside, you might not have experienced this, but at the football, there used to be guys of my age will remember this. There used to be guys at the football used to sell rolls and what they called meat, but it was basically just spam. So it was rolls and spam. They used to sell them, and they used to sell them out of a cardboard box, right? And one day at Easter Road, I was walking up this mud hill up towards the men's toilet, and there was a guy with a cardboard box full of spam rolls right outside with a cardboard box in the ground. And about an inch for the bottom of the cardboard was absolutely soaking with piss, basically.
Oh,
I remember thinking, who on earth's going to buy a roll of spam? I mean, who's going to buy a roll of spam in the first place? But you're essentially buying a roll of piss off this guy. So that's how bad it was. I was also there in round about the night, probably the late 80s when we had the CS gas incident at Easter Road. I don't know if you remember reading about that, Gav, when the Celtic casuals at the time threw a canister of CS gas into the Hibs end, and there was a subsequent pitch invasion, and all sorts was going on, and it was absolute chaos that night. So, I mean, these are great atmospheres in them, these grounds, but it all belongs in the past now, and I'm glad it's in the past, and it's a lot more comfortable experience watching football these days. As far as the allocation's concerned, I don't know that we might talk about that later on, but it would be great to see those sort of numbers travelling to away grounds. But the fact that the stadiums are all seated now means it's just never going to happen. The capacities are so much smaller.
Well, that's one issue, but then of course there's the plastic covering all the seats and the reduced allocation for away clubs. What a joke, really, that whole thing is.
Yeah, I mean, it's a joke. It's a joke from our side because we know we can fill that stand. But I always try and look at it from other teams' perspectives, and they're trying. I guess Hibs are trying to create an atmosphere in the ground that's conducive to them, perhaps winning the game. And it's maybe not the best for them to have an entire stand full of Celtic fans dominating the crowd. I know that's what teams like Kilmarnock are driving at by reducing Celtic's allocation. And we're always talking about things we can do for Scottish football. And we can't really complain if clubs are really trying to better themselves, if they're really trying to leverage any advantage they can. Obviously, it doesn't make a lot of sense from a financial point of view, but if these clubs are trying to give themselves the best chance of winning, I mean, that's all I can really say.
A financial point of view, here's a tweet from Mike Fairley. 3,500 empty seats at Easter Road times 34 quid for a ticket, 120k of revenue. I haven't checked to see if his maths are right. Financial suicide. At a time when money is so tight for these clubs. As Monty's making the same point there.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't make much sense financially, but I mean, these clubs have to take their own decisions, and it's really not us to tell them what to do. We can only do it, and they'll complain that they get absolutely slaughtered for ticket prices at Celtic Park, and end up paying a fortune for seats behind pillars with restricted views and all that sort of thing. So, and they reckon they don't get a fair crack of the whip there. So, I guess it's up to them at the end of the day.
It is up to them. And do you remember these days when it looked like that at Celtic?
Yeah, I mean that was during the Ronnie Dyler era. It's an interesting discussion, isn't it, about how the Celtic attendances fell away when there was basically no challenge in the league, and that's unarguable. Whether or not you could make a case to argue that the club didn't really do enough to make it more attractive to come along to games. I think the club at that point were quite happy to essentially shut down half the stadium and fill the other half. Sort of sums up the sort of attitude in and around the board, which remains to this day. And I think, there's more that could have been done. For instance, if we were having a good crack at Europe, if we were, putting a lot of really good young players on the park, playing a really exciting brand of football, you might have been able to get more people through the turnstiles. But, it's unarguable that that's where we were at that particular time. So Hibs doing it, they're entitled to point at that and say you were the same a few years back.
Absolutely. Okay, well, look, let's get on with the game. Just check that this is correct. First half, yeah, okay. Excuse me. Take me a second to pop this up. First action is on 3 minutes. This is Kuhn's pass. You see him, he's just about to release Kyogo there. The 3rd minute. Kyogo runs through on goal. How about the fact that Kyogo took a shot and didn't pass to Kuhn there?
Yeah, I mean, he should have played him in for sure, but the end result ended up the same. So you can't really say he took the wrong decision when the ball ends up in the back of the net. But looking at that still there, I think that would have been the right ball.
Yeah, it's criminal when you look at that still. It's like, what were you thinking, son? But strikers.
Yeah, they will be strikers.
And as Roger says, they've been at the wingers to follow up and drive into the box in these occasions. Don't be hanging back. Take a chance. And there's the two of them firing through. Jamesy made a great run to get up there to catch up a play and was on hand to cut it back to Kuhn, who also continued the run after delivering the original pass to finish it off. So a very pleasing goal, would you say?
Yeah, it was great play from both the wingers there. I think Forrest done really well to make the run, to get onto the ball, and also they showed great awareness to cut it back, because he had a set of goal himself, and the temptation for him would have been to hit it as hard as he could towards the near post and then try and score. But he had presence of mind to pull it back, and Kuhn's really showed great desire, something that we really haven't seen from him certainly last season, and something we've really been missing since the likes of Abada and Jota left the club. It's like wingers getting in at the back post and getting on the end of things like that, and that's a goal you would typically have seen Abada or Jota scoring during their time at Celtic. So that was really, really pleasing to see. But great play from both the wingers, and perfect start to the game.
Do you not think it's about time that we stopped harking back to Kuhn's early phase as a Celtic player just after we signed him and start appreciating him for the game changer that he is? Because he's absolutely on fire these days. He was man of the match in this game, and you could argue he's our most effective player at the moment, given how O'Reilly kind of didn't do much in this game.
Yeah, I mean he's playing well. I don't think I would overdo the compliments just right at this point. I'm happy. He's doing well. He had a really good pre-season, and he had a good game last week against Kilmarnock. Certainly the first half, anyway. And in this game, he had a great first half again. So he's playing good half games at the moment. And I realise the whole team fell away in the second half yesterday, but if he could put 5 or 6 of these performances together, and more,
then
more
you'll break a smile.
I'm always smiling. If he could put it together, half a dozen of these performances and put it in a good show against maybe Rangers, or a Champions League game or something like that, then I think I'll be more than happy to be more complimentary with Kuhn, and I'm delighted to see him, showing more than he showed last year. And I think there's definitely a player there for sure.
Yeah, I think he's doing great. And Forrest was very good too, I have to say. Both the wingers supposedly are problem areas, but been good so far.
Yeah, Forrest was good. Again, ran out of steam, and a couple of times he's obviously not going to pace he had before to get on the outside of the fullback. So it'd be good, if there was another option there that we can rely on to go outside the fullback. And I think Maeda will probably start the next game in front of Forrest, just for that reason alone. He's got the pace to go inside or outside the fullback. And I think Forrest will return to his place on the bench after that.
Okay, pedantry corner. Who's the snitch says, I always said Kuhn would come good. Well, if you're always saying it, who's the snitch? He's got a 4-letter name, so it's really not hard to put them in the correct order. I had a big fight on Twitter with somebody calling him KHUN. It's KUHN, isn't it? So pedantry corner.
Have you got a serious problem with people mispronouncing or misspelling people's names or mispronouncing them? You've got a real bee in your bonnet about it, Gav.
It took you a long time.
Have you got some history there? Somebody's mispronounced your name at school for a few years and it's mentally scarred you.
My American cousins did call me Gavin once, and I was like furious as a wee kid. There you go. Oh, at least Frank Brennan spells it right, but there's none of the goodwill there. I said Kuhn was crap right from the get-go and haven't changed my mind. Well,
that's because
at some stage.
That's because you complimented Frank last week on making fair, reasonable, and balanced comments. Now he's in with both feet. I can see already, saying a few things.
Yeah. Frank seems to be back. Okay, let's move it on then. That was the first goal. 15 minutes. Great chance for Kuhn to square it to Kyogo. Oh, yeah, looking at this still, the obvious thing to do is just roll it to the near post to Kyogo, and Kyogo finishes it. For some reason, he lobbed it. He lofted it up over to the back post. Did he think Kyogo didn't have enough space or what?
No, I think the still here is a bit misleading. The ball's, just about to come down. So I don't think it would have come down, or that was his judgment, and it wasn't going to come down in time for him to square it along the ground. So he just went for before it hit the deck, he just went for the lob. And I think he was anticipating Kyogo going back post, but Kyogo made the front post run and it just sailed over his head. So just a bit of miscommunication between the two. But I wouldn't really blame Kuhn for that. He probably wouldn't have been able to get it under control on the deck from that position.
You're right. He did seem to act like he didn't have time to do anything else but to raise his foot to the ball rather than let the ball come down.
Yeah, and he was moving at speed as well.
17 minutes, Kyogo latches onto a bad back pass, runs through, and then just slides it wide. He had loads of chances, actually, Kyogo. When I was collecting these stills, it struck me that he had a ton of chances.
Yeah, he did. He did it. And I mean, you can only doff your cap to him about the positions he's getting into. But obviously, his finishing could be better. And on that particular occasion, it was crying out to be driven low and hard into the near post. And the keeper had basically showed him the near post. So it was going to be much harder for him the way he was running to get it and squeeze it in at the back post. So he picked the wrong option there, and he screwed it wide. But he was quick as a flash onto the bad back pass from the Hibs defender. So he gets the points for that. And if he keeps getting himself into these sort of positions, he'll score a barrel load this season.
Yeah, I agree. But Big Rab B. Nis says Maeda should be playing in the centre as Kyogo can't hit a barn door at the moment. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be taking him away. He is creating lots of opportunities. He's getting on the end of things. It's just not coming off for him at this moment. But when it does, should be ticking through, right?
I can only assume that Big Rab has never saw Dyson Maeda playing centre forward. If he thinks Kyogo can't hit a barn door at the moment, then you can see nothing yet with Maeda. So I love Dyson Maeda. I love the energy he brings to the team. I love his pace. I love his work rate, but he's never a centre forward in a million years, and that's why it's certainly not in a team like Celtic when we're playing against a low block and organised defences most of the time. In a counter-attacking team, I think there's some value having Maeda as a centre forward, but that's not us. And bar maybe a couple of games in Europe a year, it's never going to be us. So not for me, centre forward Maeda. So I think Kyogo, I know what he's driving at, and I think we should be looking at. Obviously, we should have an alternative to Kyogo there. He shouldn't be playing 90 minutes in these games or pretty close to it. And we should be getting a break. And I feel as if that's going to come back and bite us fairly soon. Just on Big Rab's point there, I know Maeda plays centre forward for Japan, and that's Japan are more set up as a counter-attacking team. I've seen a lot of Japan playing in the Asian Conference down here against Australia a lot, and that's the way they play. They don't play against organised defences much, and he plays more as a counter-attacking centre forward, which is what he excels at. So, not for me.
It's a no from Steve. 18 minutes. This is great. This is the Cal McGregor goal. And look at the four. There's four Hibs players there, all sort of drawn towards Kuhn, like moths to the flame. And when there's four players all concerned with what you're doing, that definitely creates space for others. So he manages to just slide it through that gap there to McGregor. And then McGregor winds up for the finish that we all saw. Talk to us, first of all, about the fact that Kuhn is able to create space like this.
Yeah, well, that's what Kuhn's done very well in the game. He's created doubt in the defender's minds as to what he's going to do. So they don't really know what to do with him. They don't know whether to show him outside because he can burn them with pace on the outside. They don't know whether to show him inside because they know he can come in and have a shot. So they're all just caught in no man's land. They're all just trying to mark space and try and anticipate what he's going to do, which creates a lot of space in the inside, and he slips a lovely little ball into McGregor. But if you look at the next slide there, look at how much space McGregor's got. And, if you're a Hibs manager, you just look at that and say that's atrocious for a professional football team to let a guy of the quality of Callum McGregor have that much time and space to pick his spot. And he's absolutely laced it, and it's flew into the net like a missile, but far too much space given by the defence. But a great strike, absolutely controlled and absolutely top class quality, and technically a very, very good strike from Callum. So great to see him in fitting that he gets the goal in the week that he's announced his retirement from international football. So hope to see loads more of them in the months to come from McGregor.
And I think it's deserving of a little vid, isn't it? Let's watch it again. Watch the wee ball boy's reaction. Did you see the ball boy there? Watch the ball boy when it sails into the corner. Oh. Very good. Yeah, brilliant goal. 21 minute, Kun to AJ. AJ drives it across the goal, and the defender nearly scored an own goal. Do you remember this?
Yeah, it was another great piece of play. Some lovely intricate passing movements from Celtic. Everybody seems to be in motion. Everybody seems to be in tune with what everyone else is doing. And that was another example of it. It was a good ball by Alistair Johnson in, and the defender has to get something on it because he's going to flash across the face of goal. And he's very, very fortunate, the defender, because he's deflected it onto the junction of the bar and the post. So very, very fortunate from him, but excellent play and unlocking it. At that point, you're really thinking, how many goals are we going to score today? It could be as many as we want it to be.
Yeah, well, that would have made it 3. There were other good chances before then, but it was only 2-0 at this stage. And really, after the first 20 minutes, 21 minutes or whatever, the quality of the game kind of took a turn, didn't it? It was brilliant up until then. And then the second half of the first half and most of the second half was considerably duller, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I think the intensity of the game sort of fell a little bit. Hibs obviously sort of started trying to work a little bit harder in the press and try to stop Celtic. But I felt as if Celtic were always looking likely to score right through the first half and even at the start of the second half. For the first 10, 15 minutes in the second half. It wasn't until after that, for me, that we started, the sort of level of our performance started to drop. But I was quite happy with the first half. Obviously, Hibs, they could see the game running away from them, and they knew that when a third goal goes in, that's the end of it. You're not coming back from 3-0, regardless of what happens. So, yeah, I was quite happy with the first half performance.
What happened there? Is this the next moment? Yeah, 22 minutes. O'Reilly places one just outside the top right corner from the edge of the box. Didn't have a brilliant game, did he, O'Reilly? Really? Remember we were talking, I mean, he was okay, didn't do terribly wrong. But remember last week we were talking about him showboating almost and Harlem Globetrotters, and he's always going for the Hollywood stuff. And when that comes off, you absolutely lap it up. But quite a few times today, he did it and it didn't quite come off. And you kind of found yourself saying, look, stop worrying about who's looking at you, son. Just put in the hard day's work for Celtic.
Yeah, look, I wouldn't be overcritical of him. I do agree. He didn't have his best game yesterday. But I don't think, given that he's been surrounded by transfer speculation for the last 7 or 8 months, all the way back to December. So I don't think you can really accuse him of letting that affect his performances. I think it was just one of those games for him where things didn't happen. He was unlucky with that shot. It was an excellent shot, and he just missed just too high with the shot. So I think it was just one of those games for him. And, his midfield partner in Rio Hatate, I thought he had a poor game as well. And I don't think that helped O'Reilly. I think when both those players bring the best out of each other. And I think Hatate's, I don't know, I'm not sure if Hatate's got a long-term future at Celtic if he keeps putting those sort of performances in. As Frank says here, and I do agree with Frank in this instance, he disappears far too easily out of games. He's also physically brushed off the ball far too easily. It's happened a few times.
Examples of that.
he got crowded out a few times in the midfield and just sort of, and you know, his head goes down a bit when that happens, and he needs to be stronger in those situations. So when he's on form, he's a brilliant. He's a joy to watch, and he had a couple of great passes in the game. One in particular to Kyogo, I think in the second half, where he really should have scored again. But you know, not his best performance, and I don't think that helped O'Reilly.
Yeah. Well, that's all I've got for the first half. I stopped. I didn't find anything else particularly of note until we got into the second half. First moment of, oops, no, that's a video. Oh, I know what's happened here, sorry. Yes, there was nothing else of note until the 47th minute when Callum McGregor hit the post. I don't know if you recall that moment, but I'll show it to you now. Hits the post with deflected shot after blocked effort from Kuhn. Was it offside? It was given offside, or maybe a penalty. Maybe you like a good penalty shot.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm not gonna go overdo the penalty thing. I think it could have been, but I don't have any problem with him not giving it. The offside probably was just offside, but that's the sort of decision that linesmen are supposed to let go and let VAR have a look at it. But I wouldn't really argue with that either, because he looked marginally offside. I think Kuhn in the first instance should have scored, and this was a sort of theme that developed into the game. We were really, really wasteful in front of goal, something that Chris Sutton alluded to in commentary quite a bit. We wasted an awful lot of chances, and when we got into the sort of final third of the game and it was only 2-0, one goal has almost happened. I'm sure you'll have that up in a minute or two. And the game's right back on again in a game that Hibs were never at the races. So we really should have been. We really should have got that third goal and closed the game out. And I think Brendan sort of raised that in the post-match press conference as well. He said we should have scored more goals. So I don't think he'll be too happy with some of these missed chances. But it was a good strike from McGregor. Got a really, really fortuitous deflection, which took it past the goalkeeper but onto the post. So I think the original chance should have been put away, though.
It should have, yeah, or it could have, but a lot of defenders throwing their bodies on the line to get in the way of things. Just before we proceed any further with the second half action, here's a quick message from our French fans in honor of Christophe.
Hello all the Celtic fans. Here in France we love the Celtic world. C'est fantastique. Subscribe. C'est un fait accompli.
So hopefully you've all subscribed by now. If you haven't, you know what to do. All right,
C'est
on y va.
magnifique, for sure.
Yes, you've watched Only Fools and Horses a few times. Okay. Long live Hookie Street. 50 minutes. Kyogo's shot saved at near post after a lovely pass from Taylor. This was another one of those moments that you could easily forget about, but yet another Kyogo running onto it. Keeper got in the way. On another day, Kyogo could have had a hatful and we'd all have been singing his praises that he's back. It just didn't quite fall for him.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be beyond the realms of possibility. He could have a hat-trick last week and a hat-trick this week as well. So he could have been sitting here with 6 goals for the season quite comfortably. And this was another one. I actually thought this was in. When I watched it live, I didn't realise that the keeper had got such a strong touch to it. But it was a good save. Good save by the keeper. He's gone out. The angle's against him there. And he's kind of moving away from the goal. So it was a difficult chance, but I thought it was in when I watched it live.
Yeah. 52 minutes, O'Reilly slides Kyogo in. Defender challenges and Kyogo's shoulder pops out or something. Mind this?
Yeah, I think that was the point in the game where everyone collectively shat themselves.
Yeah.
At least those of a Celtic persuasion anyway. When you see Kyogo
all over Kitty Price.
When you see Kyogo going down holding his shoulder like that, then it all just comes crashing down all of a sudden, and you're thinking that could be a really important moment for the season. And you can see all these sort of prophecies of doom that have been bouncing around Twitter about what happens if Kyogo gets an injury. You can see it all coming true for a minute there, but breathed a huge sigh of relief when he got up and got on with the game, albeit that he was substituted a while later. So there is clearly a problem there, and there has been a problem with Kyogo's shoulder for I think about 18 months now, which we've been managing.
Yeah, I won't go into the Katie Price thing, but there's an image going around of her. Well, anyway, Google it, Frank Brennan. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. This Kyogo shoulder thing. I mean, are you familiar with shoulder problems? Is shoulders not being dislocated? It's not popping out of the socket, and then they come on and shove it back in again, like in war movies or old. They just slam themselves up against a tree. Is it that's happening every time, or what? Drink some whiskey, bite down on a piece of wood.
I don't think it's that, because a dislocated shoulder is, as far as I know, I've never suffered this, but I think it's a really, really painful painful injury. So you wouldn't be just popping it in and carrying on regardless.
Well, those are the terms they use. They popped his shoulder back in. What does that mean, Dr. Oz?
I think he's probably just tweaked a shoulder. I'm going to say my diagnosis of this, he's got a bit of inflammation in his rotator cuff. And when he lands on his shoulder in a certain way, it sort of gives him maybe a bit of jolt of pain. And he just needs to sort of, that needs to be sort of physioed out, if you know what I mean. He's just got to sort of move it around a bit until it feels a bit more comfortable. But that would be my diagnosis.
So they're not popping anything back in at all?
Yeah, they're not.
They're just wiggling it around a bit. That's not very.
I'd say so.
Doesn't sound medical. If anyone in the comments knows what the nature of Kyogo's problem is and how it is solved and is what's being popped back in, that would be very helpful. So that was that one. 52 minutes. Then 59, Martin Boyle absolutely skins Greg Taylor for pace and then squares it to sort of no one, just slides across the goal and goes out. He's dangerous, that Martin Boyle, isn't he? Him and his 1950s haircut.
Yeah, he's not a bad player, Martin Boyle. I think he's decent. He's got the potential to be a good player for Hibs, but you certainly wouldn't be wanting Celtic to sign him. I think he got a move, didn't he, and ended up going back to Hibs. So yeah, he's got a good ton of pace on him. And this was at that period of the game where if they had got a goal back, obviously they'd have then got their tails up. The crowd would have come into the game a lot more, and who knows what could have happened after that. So I didn't really think we were ever in any danger of conceding a goal, but all it took there was a defender to get a bad connection on it and send it into his own net. It's always dangerous when the ball's flashed across goal like that. But I didn't really think Hibs ever looked like scoring. It was always going to be, and I think this came from a bad pass from one of our defenders, if I'm not mistaken. And all of these situations were self-inflicted by us in the second half, and it was a fairly poor end to the game from us.
There's a bit of humour there from John.
It's very harsh.
He's right. He's absolutely right. Kyogo fails to connect to end a sweeping counter-attack. This was the lovely counter-attack. Do you remember? It had a little back heel in it, and then the ball was played out wide. Sent through to Kyogo, and you just think, oh, here we go. Kyogo special. He loves a ball like that, right in front of goal. He's just going to ripple the net. And he makes a hymns of it.
Yeah, I mean, that was the one I was talking about. I think it was the excellent cross, or the ball through from Hatate, I think it was. And that's the second week in a row he's fluffed a chance like that. But again, he's there, he's in the position, and you'd be a lot more worried if he wasn't getting into these areas and he wasn't getting on the end of chances. you get in the end of chances and miss them, and you know that's going to come. And it'll probably come over the next couple of weeks. If he gets any more chances like that, he'll probably bury it. So I don't have any worries about Kyogo. My only worry about him is keeping him fit and healthy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, definitely in the second half, they had more chances. We had fewer. We weren't dominating the game at all to the same extent, anyway, as early in the first half, but still very few chances. This is where Kuhn is taking down, as you can see here, a nice ball from Taylor. And it's the defender that's near the sort of penalty spot there who looks in full motion. He comes flying across and slides in to snuff out the danger. But again, if Kuhn had just been a bit quicker there, getting the shot away, that could easily have been a goal.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you had to pick a criticism of Kuhn's performance, it's just his decision making in tight situations like that. A couple of times in the first half, when he came inside, he was dribbling across the box, and he just sort of took an extra touch or tried to take on an extra man when the right call was to get a shot away. And that's one thing he does need to iron out his game. He needs to make a decision quicker, and I think he was just a half a second too slow in getting the shot away here, and it allowed the defender to get in and make the challenge. You know, sometimes you've just got to hold your hand up and say it was a good piece of defensive play, and I think it was
that too. Yeah,
it was a really excellent block from him. But you know, again, another one we should have buried.
62 minutes. Boyle crosses to far post. Player fails to connect enough. He gets his sort of studs on it or something.
Yeah,
so
again,
a few incidents.
I guess another chance for them as the game started to swing from end to end at that point. I'm not sure if we'd started to make some substitutions by then, but the fluency was gone from our performance by that point. Passes were starting to go astray. They were trying to press us high. We looked as if we were struggling to pass through their press. Whereas we were doing it very easily in the first half. I don't know whether that's down to them and the way they set up, or whether our performance levels just dropped away, but it wasn't great.
And this is really where they got closest to scoring. This is the fella Bowie, or Bowie, I don't know how it's pronounced, making a bit of a mug of CCV and then hitting the crossbar. Now, if Scales had been in CCV's shoes and had this happen to him, he would have been absolutely pilloried. In fact, he was pilloried for this game. I saw on Twitter a lot of people saying the absolute bomb scare. He made a few mistakes, did a few things wrong, but he also did a lot right. And this wasn't him getting skinned. It was CCV, who was described as a Rolls Royce and imperious and stuff on Twitter. So I think that's a bit unfair. But this was great work from their new signing, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think CCV was particularly good in the game. I think he had a few moments like that, particularly in the second half. I thought Scales was absolutely abominable. So I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to mount any defence of Scales' performance just because Cameron.
He was good and bad. He was good and bad.
Yeah, okay, but I think CCV, he had a few dodgy moments defensively, but in general terms, he's more reliable when he's on the ball.
Of course,
and you know what you're going to get from him. With Scales, I think it's anybody's guess what you're going to get. So yeah. I'm not. Cameron Carter-Vickers has got this in his game. Occasionally, they had the one. You had a couple of mistakes last year in the Champions League, one which cost us a draw against Lazio at home. So that wasn't Liam Scales had done that one either. So Cameron Carter-Vickers is he's not the best defender in the world. He's very good and he's normally very reliable. And I think with a better central defensive partner, the likes of Carl Starfelt, he's showed in the past that they can have a really effective combination with somebody who's just as good as him on the other side of the park. But he didn't have his best game yesterday, that's for sure.
We'll take a pause there. So hear from Dr. Bickett. Once a shoulder is dislocated, it becomes inherently unstable and prone to dislocating again. So it probably was re-enlocated by the docs and physio. So they are popping back in a dislocated shoulder. definitive repair surgery would leave him out 6 weeks. Is Martin Pickett wearing scrubs there? Are those medical scrubs he's got on, or the green of Celtic?
It could be. It could be. Yeah. It certainly sounds as if he knows what he's talking about, so I think that's probably half the battle, isn't it?
Very good. Whatever you say it with confidence. All right. 85 minutes. O'Reilly should have buried this header, are my notes. Heads it down, but straight at the keeper. Either side, and that's a goal, most likely, unless he does a, what do you call that English goalkeeper who did that save?
Yeah, Gordon Banks.
That's the one.
So yeah, it's a great chance. I 100% agree with you. He should have scored the header. It was a great cross. I can't remember who crossed it, and he should have scored for sure.
There you go. Martin's an emergency physician in Melbourne. Brilliant.
No, well.
There you go. Then we attract an intelligent crowd. I think it's fair to say.
We do. Sometimes it's difficult to see. Sometimes it's difficult to see that in the comments, but clearly we do. So thanks. For raising the average IQ on the show, Martin. You're welcome back anytime.
Yeah, so that was the last action that I had saved from the game. So
just in the follow on to that incident, there was the one where Mikey Johnson got a
that's right.
What they reckon was a broken nose and a fairly serious facial injury, which is going to see him out for a few weeks now, which is quite significant in that we probably won't get shot of him this transfer window. With the transfer window only 2 weeks to go, he won't kick a ball again before the end of the transfer window. And whether a team is going to pay money to take a guy who's out injured is highly questionable. So I think that was quite a significant moment, especially from the point of view that, he's one of the only players in the team who has played centre forward before. In the absence of Kyogo, certainly hasn't played it very well before, but he has played there in the past under Brendan Rodgers. So I think that was quite a significant moment.
Yep. Now then, just comment here. Plunge McNugget saying Bowie will soon be Hibs star man. Did you hear? Or you probably didn't hear the Celtic TV commentary then, because you mentioned Chris Sutton earlier.
No, I didn't hear it. No.
Everyone's favourite, Jerry McCullough, was going on about how Kieran Bowie is 6'7". And he's going 6'7". I mean, he doesn't even look that much bigger than Scales. And I was thinking, well, he's not 6'7". Definitely not. So I looked it up, and the first place I saw was Wikipedia lists him as 6'7", and everywhere else lists him as about 6'3". So we can tell where Jerry's getting his information from, and then repeating it to the fans of Celtic TV.
Yes, good to see he's fact checking all his information thoroughly before broadcasting it to a worldwide audience.
To be fair,
just like us, obviously.
Yes, he did point out that, well, you can't believe everything you read on the internet, he said, but be good to exercise that when you're gathering your information.
Yeah.
But there's a part of the chat that I had with the American CSCs was about them meeting Jerry McCullough and what a nice fella he is and all this. And I've yet to put that out as a little tweet, but I've got a snippet of that where I pledged to be nicer to Jerry McCullough this season. And so I'm not going to slag him off too much, apart from what we've just said. What other points of note? Go ahead.
Jerry McCullough is a guy, he comes from the same sort of area as me in Scotland, so he went to the same school as my wife, albeit a few years above her. So I don't know him personally, but I know people who do, and he is a nice guy. Definitely a born and bred Celtic fan with a strong history of supporting the club. Obviously, he had his time in the radio, where anybody who works a bit in media always comes across as a bit of a dick at times, and I think that sort of tarnished a lot of people's views of him. And he is pretty terrible on Celtic TV for the most part.
No,
but,
I stand up for Jerry.
I think you've got to say, what has he got to work with there? What sort of budget are they giving him?
Exactly.
You don't know, and I'm sure it's not a highly well polished media machine as you might expect it to be at a club like Celtic. So I'm sure he's doing his best.
Exactly. He put out a tweet saying, he doesn't like, or it was sort of to counter the abuse that they receive, saying, look, Celtic TV is a small band of very hardworking people, and I don't doubt that at all. Question is, should they be, or should they be a medium-sized band of slick professionals driving Celtic forward in the digital era?
Yeah, like everything else at Celtic, though, when you look at the prices they're charging for their product, then they should be a slick, highly polished media machine, but obviously they're not, and that's just another area where the club's failing.
The goalkeeper that collided with Mikey Johnson, Bursic, he's 24 years old, former AFC Wimbledon keeper, my London club, and has England caps throughout the youth phases, under 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21. So he might be one to watch. Keep your eye on him. Do you know who the Hibernian sponsor is?
No, I don't.
Shirt
actually.
sponsor.
I couldn't even tell you what it is.
It's Bevy, which struck me as a very Scottish kind of thing to have on your football shirt. Bevy. Do you have any idea what Bevy is?
Yeah, I wouldn't have a clue.
Bevy.com. Does anyone, without looking it up, know what Bevy is in the comments? Well, as you can see, the logo there is a bottle, sort of afloat in the ocean or something. Bevy.com. I thought, what the hell could that be? It's hardly a household name. It's a groundbreaking mobile application for whiskey lovers. Allows any smartphone camera to identify any bottle of whiskey and reveal the value of its contents alongside tasting notes. Founded in 2021, Bevy.com has been a huge success across the world. At its core is a mobile app that allows anyone to scan the front of any whiskey bottle and immediately access comprehensive tasting notes, distillery history, and an indicative valuation. So there you go. It's an app that tells you all about whiskey and all the stories behind it. And
that's very interesting, isn't it? I've never known that.
Good. I'm glad. I hope you're being serious there, not sarcastic.
I'm being serious. I'm not having a go. I think that's a really interesting name for a whiskey app, and really sort of something uniquely Scottish. Because nobody in it, if you were using that app down here in Australia, you would never make that connection, would you?
No, and the funny thing is, whiskey enthusiasts, they sort of, there's a level of sophistication, isn't there, to knowing that being a whiskey connoisseur, and yet Bevy sounds like you're cracking open a can of Tennant Super, describing the.
That's right, yeah.
I'm getting blackcurrant almonds.
Interesting
Bevy.
Juxtaposition.
Oh, that's too big a word for a Celtic world. Come on now. All right, well, let's move it on to this transfer. Geez, we're almost on the hour. Christ. Didn't think we were going to have enough time. I mean, I thought we were going to have too much time to fill, just the two of us. But look at this, Stephen. Yeah?
Look at it. Look at us go.
Okay, this goddamn transfer window is the next heading to talk about. Anything happening? Adamita, last week you were like, look, the very least they can do is in the course of this next week, just bloody complete the signing of Adamita. Here we are a week later. Nothing has happened as far as we can see. He just played for Norwich. So will he, won't he? I don't know. It's a question of faith, seemingly, at the moment. Where do you stand on that? Is it going to happen?
Look, I honestly don't have a clue. I don't have a clue if he's going to sign or not. I think it's verging on high farce now. You had him, all the reports for some fairly well-connected journalists had him in Glasgow on Friday for a medical. He'd apparently been seen up in some hotel or some office block up in Park Square up in Glasgow. But what a crap, then he ends up on the bench for Norwich the next day. So, he's clearly not close to signing. Now, I understand all that can change in the blink of an eye. But my God, it's just we just can't seem to do anything right when it comes to transfers. This sort of thing should all be done seamlessly and easily. And I'm not saying for a minute that we should, just pay whatever they want for Adam either. But we have to be serious. The sort of figure being mentioned at the moment that will get the deal done is round about the 6 million mark. Now, you consider we sold O for 4.5 million. And O was a guy who was never going to trouble our first team. So if we're selling
Lawwell got a few million, 2 to 3 for him.
Yeah, and that's what you get for that sort of money. So if you're getting a guy for Adam Ida, it's risk free. In that you know what he is, you know what he brings to the team, you know what he's like in training, you know what type of personality he is. There's no risk. We could sign him today, and if we were playing on Wednesday night, he could be in the team. That's how seamless the signing would be, and there's very, very few players that you can say that about. So it's risk free from that point of view. And if 6 million. 6.5, something round about that gets the deal done, then it should have been done by now. And there's really no excuse. And if they don't want to sign Adam Ida, if they're determined not to pay that money, then they have to move on to another target, and they have to have a plan B. And with Bojan Majowski signing today, apparently for Girona, that was everybody else. That was the supposed plan B, and that's gone. And we seem to be running out of transfer targets at the moment. So I don't see this ending well, to be honest. I think
let's keep it positive. Ida comes in, and then Jeffrey Schlupp signs. Is that when you throw your hands up and go, old timer, what's the point? Straight out of Brendan's black book.
Well, not at all. I mean, I think that's where we are just now. I think we're relying on Brendan's black book at the moment because, whatever offerings whatever the recruitment team is at the moment is providing are obviously not up to scratch. So I think we're going to be relying on Brendan's black book. And if that's a 32-year-old, I mean, the fact that we brought in Kasper Schmeichel, who's 37, and everyone said was too old, and it looks as if he's an upgrade on Joe Hart. I understand goalkeeper's slightly different, but there's always a place in the team, as we saw with we've seen various players down through the years who've come in at the back end of their careers and had a bit of an Indian summer at Celtic, and that can happen again for any player in their 30s, just like Aaron Moy did under Ange, a guy who was also supposed to be too old but came in and looked like an absolute Rolls Royce in our team. So if there is a player who Brendan thinks can do a job for us for a season or two in their early 30s and with no sell-on value, again, we have to stop getting hung up on sell-on value. Sometimes you have to just go and sign a player who you're not going to get any money back for him, who's going to provide you a good chance of success in the here and the now. And if this guy ticks those boxes, then I don't see why not. We shouldn't be signing him. Unfortunately, the truth of the matter is he's on EPL wages though. So, unless we can come up with some creative sort of wage structure for him, then I can't see it happening.
But a player like him who's been in the Premier League for so long, he's been there so long, I know his name. That's how long he's been there. Honestly, these modern day players in the Premier League, I don't know who the hell they are. But when I saw Schlupp mentioned, I was like, oh, yeah, that name rings a bell. Same age as Cal McGregor, still getting regular games for Palace. Can play left back, left wing, centre mid, or centre forward. 20 caps for Ghana. Schlupp is known for his extreme pace and athleticism, which by all accounts hasn't tailored off a great deal, given his age, which allows him to be a versatile option and play anywhere on the left. Former teammate Andrej Kamaric once said of Schlupp, I've never played with a more powerful player than Jeffrey Schlupp. Such power and speed like I've never seen before. And, Brendan loves power and speed. He loves that, doesn't he? So I would welcome. I think Schlupp enriches the squad. Definitely.
Yeah, it does. It sounds like a Brendan Rodgers player factory, doesn't it? He's produced this guy, power and pace, and can play in a multitude of different positions. So perfect player to fit in Rodgers' system. And if he has got that sort of power and that sort of pace, and that versatility, then yeah, it'd be perfect for us, because we need players in almost all of those positions. So if we could play them all at once, that would be
That's
even
very
better.
Celtic board.
That's right. Yeah.
What are you saying? We didn't get a left back or a centre midfielder or a striker, Jeffrey Schlupp?
Got his guy. There's all three. What are you complaining about?
Ah, dear, the times we have. Hey, the agony continues.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I can't see this transfer window finishing well for us. I really don't think there's the players in the offing that we think we do. There's not the work going on in the background that we think there is. I think by the time you get to this stage in the transfer window, everybody's holding off for the last few days to see what shakes loose, and I think that's where we're going to end up. I wouldn't be surprised if we get the Adamida deal over the line at some point over the next week or so. But, you know, apart from that, I mean, let's not forget, that only gets us back to where we were last season. And my worry is, if we then go and sell Matt O'Reilly in the last week in a window, I don't have any faith at all that they've got a replacement waiting in the wings to come in.
All right, well, they've already got him. He was on loan with us last year. Now he's been signed on a permanent.
Yeah, that's not the answer we were looking for. That's the incorrect answer, Gav.
I don't know if it's incorrect. It might not be what you were looking for, but it could be correct. Ah, dear. All right, well, look, keep the faith, everyone. Even if you're really pessimistic about this window, don't let it get to you. Don't let it get you down. Don't let the bastards get you down, Stephen. Keep your pecker up. Be positive. You know, it might all work out beautifully in the end.
It could always be worse. You could be the Huns, you know, with our stadium falling down around their ears and having to sell to buy, and, you know, a ridiculous manager making fucking crap comments every week. So, you know, it could always be worse.
Let's deal with a couple of comments here before we sign off. Mo's asking, where's Kaiser? I did ask Kaiser if he could come on today, but he was sadly unavailable. He's a very busy man. Mahesh talking about Schlupp as if he's a replacement for Riley. I don't think he's in any way a replacement for Riley. I think he'd be being brought in as left back, don't you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's. I think that it'd certainly be a left back option for sure. And I think that's what they're looking for. I'm not really sure they're looking to replace Greg Taylor. They're just looking to give us another option in that position. So I certainly can't see him being a replacement for Matt O'Reilly. And Mahesh is correct. He would be a downgrade if that was the case.
Yeah, sure. I don't think it is. I don't think that's what they're thinking. But who knows? I mean, we're all in this position of utter ignorance, aren't we? On the outside looking in. So thank you very much, everyone. Go ahead.
But I think, I don't know, it could have been me. I picked up a bit of Brendan's comments at the weekend. I think he's becoming really frustrated. So his sort of language is changing slightly to the hopefully we get someone in, and, you know, we're trying our best in that. And, you know, we've seen this movie before, unfortunately.
We've seen this movie before. Well, thanks to all in the comments for joining in, as always. Lots of interesting chit-chat going on there. Let me bring up a few farewell comments. Those are always nice. Sometimes we get the nicest comments of all after we finish broadcasting. And it's annoying that I didn't get the chance to put them up. Somebody put one up recently saying, "Hail, hail, thanks, great show. A Celtic World is my favourite of these shows on YouTube." And it was pretty annoying that we couldn't share that with people who are watching and haven't yet subscribed, because that might have been very convincing to them. Don't you think, Stephen?
Yeah, I'm sure nobody will accuse us of completely making that one up, Gav. Something we have zero evidence. Do you have receipts?
I didn't. If you rewatch it, when you watch the old shows back, do you see the live stream comments coming in or not? Oh no, you wouldn't have seen it because anyway, it wasn't broadcast. Definitely happened. I'm not lying. Jeez, it's a sad state of affairs when you don't even believe me. How can anyone else? You did see it.
I did see I was on the show, so yeah.
Oh well, there you go. So it was one you were on, so you can't.
I'm lying as well, obviously.
All right. Well, until Thursday. Good luck, everyone. Hopefully, something will have happened by then, but wouldn't count on it. But I mean, something has to happen someday. Let's leave it on that. Cheers, Stephen. All the best.
Cheers, Gav. Hail, hail.
Hail, hail.